Yeah, so let's talk about respect. All right. Many of us think that we're gaining respect, but in reality, what we're gaining is attention, or we're being taken into account, or we're being taken into consideration, but we're not truly gaining respect. When I think about myself and even my interaction with my wife, I've had this desire from the time we got married, and even before that, like to feel kind of like a hero. And I think a lot of men out there probably identify with that. We have this desire because, the hero is respected. See, we're not really taught how to earn and how to gain respect. We're sort of just thrown into the world and we're required to figure it out. And so, what do we do? What happens is, and here's the problem, we end up just observing what's around us. And based on that, we formulate our idea on how we can gain respect, how we can be respected. Our culture and what we have around us, the influences we have, especially perhaps our father figure, teaches us how to gain respect. But we're not genuinely taught properly how to earn respect. So that's why sometimes we turn to things like, being dominant or earning more money or having women, status, fame as a way of gaining respect. But what we're gaining, again, is just attention, getting consideration, we being taken into account. You know, I remember like when I was a teenager, and it's funny because when I was a teenager, we had just started using cell phones. I think I had my first cell phone when I was about 15 years old. But I remember something that my classmates would do. They would look at each other's phones and look into each other's contacts. And there would be this competition to see how many girls' phone numbers were in your contacts. And obviously, like my phone contact had like the least, and that was a source of embarrassment. And I felt, disrespect. I felt bad about myself. I felt ashamed because I couldn't get as many girls' phone numbers as my classmates. And that's an example of how culture and the ideas around young men influence what they view as a sign of respect. And it's destroying us. It simply is destroying us. And breaking it down for me as I became older and I looked at perhaps being dominant when I felt disrespected. So raising my voice, throwing something, making some noise, really pathetic ways to assert dominance as a way of gaining respect. But a turning point came for me when I asked myself an important question. And the question I asked myself was internally, am I really being respected, or is my wife or are other people simply becoming afraid of disrespecting me? So am I really being respected, or are others just afraid of disrespecting me? There's no two different things. Generating fear in others has its uses in certain environments, in war, in a competitive environment like professional sports, even business. It has its uses. But in our day to day life, genuine respect doesn't come from instilling a fear of disrespecting you in others. And so that's why we have this problem. What is true respect? There's so many definitions of respect, and they all touch on it. But personally, I do agree with the fact that true respect comes from being able to, it has to do with the name that we're able to make for ourselves. And I'm not talking about being famous. I mean, when people or those who know of you hear your name, when you're not around, what do they say in response to that name? Whether it be what they say out loud or what they say mentally. In other words, how is your name carried? How is my name carried when I'm not around? I think that's a key sign of respect. But I must go further. I must go deeper. Because if your good name, however good it may be, is carried based on things that are external factors, things like title or money or women or status, if it's based on those things, which I would call hollow things, then we have a problem. And why I would say those are hollow things is because, again, they're based on external factors. They're based on things that we think we have control over them, but we really do not have complete control over them. Circumstances and situations could change beyond our control. And the minute those factors or circumstances are removed, well, there goes our respect. And so that's the problem with looking for respect from things like titles and, those kind of external factors. So for me, the only way to overcome that is to focus on a proper foundation. Like our foundation needs to be properly intact in order for us to have true respect. And the foundation is basically internal. It's all about who we are and how we are when no one is watching. It's not about titles, the money, fame, women. It's not about that. It's about who we are and how we are when no one is watching. True respect is not something that's flashy, it's quiet, it's in the dark, it's something that is cultivated and developed in the dark when no one is around. Because, again, if our name is based on an impression that is formed on us, but not based on the reality of who we are inside when no one is watching, then we have a problem because sooner or later, when the light is shone on that darkness, on that dark spot, or that blind spot that people can't see, when light is shone there and we're exposed, so true respect, in my opinion, is very similar to muscle. If we try to buy real respect through things that are external, it's kind of like someone trying to look like they have muscle by taping artificial muscle to their body. And when you put clothes over that, it looks like a muscular person. But when that person is put to the test to show their strength, they're revealed to be a weakling. And that's what happens when our respect is tied to some circumstance like that and it's not built from within. Genuine muscle, real respect. So, how do we do that? Well, again, we have to work on ourselves as individuals. We have to sort of strip away or tear away some of these ideas that we have on life, question them. We got to think critically. We have to work on building character. And we could do that in really simple ways. One simple way is like keeping our word. If we say that we're going to do something, we do it. We come through. We build respect. We build respect by doing that. We build respect too when we develop honor as an individual, when we build proper values like being a humble, truly humble person, a resilient person, a perseverant person, a disciplined person. The beautiful thing about that is that all those factors, all of those points that we mentioned there are all things that we can control. Those are real goals that we could develop for ourselves. And we are completely in control of how humble we can become. The work we do on building humility, building character, building resilience, building perseverance, building self-discipline. And guess what? More often than not, or I guess I would say all the time, 100% of the time, that work that we do internally on ourselves when no one is watching would reflect in the way we deal and treat with others. It will be evidenced in our output, our production. I'm not saying that we're going to become millionaires or we're going to become super famous. That's not the objective. Those things might come, but the foundation is solid. And that's the basis for real respect. What do you think? Do you agree? Do you think that that's something that will really help us build respect? What are your thoughts on it? Feel free to share in the comments. And remember, at the end of the day, true respect comes from within. So when it's worked on internally, nobody could take it away from us. So I want to encourage you to, work on that. I myself, as an individual, is something that I'm continuing to try to work on to build. I don't want to come on here acting like I am this person who has it all figured out, but these are notes, these are ideas, journals that I have written that I've tried to formulate to improve as an individual. And it has helped me tremendously in my relationships. So, of course, most of all in my marriage. And I think that this is something that could be useful for other people. One of the things that I'm battling with here on YouTube is the fact or the idea that I have that the algorithm tends to share our information or share our videos with like-minded people, people who are already thinking along a particular line. And for these type of videos, sometimes it could be a bit discouraging, that idea, because I'm not looking necessarily for people who think the same. Of course, yes, I want to encourage you to continue along that line, but there are so many people who probably aren't looking for this information but really need it. So do me a favor. If you know someone who might be battling with this particular issue or who this information could be very useful to, please share it with them. Yeah. You'll be doing them a favor, you'll be doing me a favor, because my objective is to be able to share content that is useful and beneficial in our society while at the same time earn an income, right? So, yeah, like, subscribe, and share. And I hope to see you guys in the next video.